One of Them Days is a feature film directed by Lawrence Lamont, starring Keke Palmer as Drew and five-time Grammy Award winner SZA in her acting debut as Alyssa. The film also marks the first producer credit for Issa Rae, best known for her breakout role in HBO's Insecure. With a runtime of 1 hour and 37 minutes, One of Them Days follows two best friends and roommates, Drew and Alyssa. Their comfortable, if slightly dysfunctional living situation is thrown into disarray when Alyssa's boyfriend runs off with their rent money. Now facing eviction, Drew and Alyssa have just 24 hours to scrap together rent money by any means necessary. What follows is a chaotic sequence of hustles, creative problem solving, and hard truths, all while testing the strength of their friendship. As always, spoiler warning if you haven't yet seen One of Them Days, I highly recommend giving it a watch, then circling back. I'll be here when you return. Let's talk pros, what the film gets right. Pro number one, solid chemistry between the two lead actresses. SZA, while still finding her feet on screen, brings a level of sincerity to her character as Alyssa that balances out with her on-screen duo. The dynamic between Drew and Alyssa feels lived in, messy, and authentic, the kind of bond you only get from years of shared trauma, bad decisions, and, well, inside jokes. Pro number two, the film represents a snapshot of real millennial struggles. The film does a great job capturing the existential panic of being young, broke, and trying to adult in the world stacked against you. From dodging shady landlords to scrambling for loans and brainstorming wild money making schemes with friends, the hustle feels genuinely relatable, even when the situations are heightened for dramatic effect. Pro number three, a comedy that actually has something to say. The film isn't just about running from eviction, it's about accountability, friendship, and how sometimes the people we love the most are the ones we enable the hardest. More on this point a bit later. With the pros out of the way, let's take a moment to talk about the cons of the film and examine where the film falls short. Con number one, the plot gets a bit overstuffed. Despite the 97-minute runtime of the film introduces several subplots that drag out the film and make it longer than it should have been. While these subplots may have been placed for comedic effect, I found them to miss more than hit in terms of comedy. When I refer to subplots, I'm referring to those sections of the movie that included the interactions with King Lolo, scenes with the drive-through bandits, and the scenes with Bernice, specifically the recurring threat she became to both Drew and Alyssa for playing a role in embarrassing her at an earlier point in the film. Con number two, the boyfriend is a walking stereotype. Alyssa's boyfriend, the catalyst for this whole mess, is so over the top useless that he feels, well, cartoonish. A little more nuance could have made the conflict hit harder or perhaps give him viable reasons and inner conflicts when making the decision to run off with the rent money to begin with. Con number three, tonal highs and lows. At times, the film struggles with tonal whiplash. There are moments where the film jumps from laugh out loud humor to more dramatic and emotional heavy scenes with abrupt transitions. It doesn't ruin the film, but it might throw some viewers off. So, is it worth watching in 2025? Absolutely, especially if you're into comedies that mix absurdity with emotional honesty. While not perfect, One of Them Days is ambitious, heartfelt, and more than a little relatable. One of Them Days is the kind of movie that feels like a conversation with your best friend after a long, messy day. It's imperfect, a little loud, a little dramatic, but it's honest and full of heart. It may not win awards, but it will win over anyone who's ever had to laugh through the chaos just to keep from crying. With the pros and cons out of the way, let's look at the bigger picture and examine some of the key takeaways of this film. Key takeaway number one, friendship over romance. One of the most important messages of the film is that romantic relationships shouldn't come at the cost of your real support system, especially if it's a detrimental relationship. Drew's frustration isn't just about the money. It's about being sidelined by a friend who won't choose herself. There comes a point in the film and in life where we sometimes may have to examine whether or not we are enabling versus empowering. The tension between loving someone and holding them accountable underpins some of the conflict within this film. Key takeaway number two, survival mode as a lifestyle. A harsh reality is that survival mode is a lifestyle in itself. The film taps into how survival, financially, emotionally, socially, can become second nature. Drew and Alyssa's chaotic methods may be extreme, but they reflect the day-to-day improvisation that many people face under pressure, all while highlighting the many uncertainties that come with living month to month or paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes surviving the storm is the win. Key takeaway number three, Lucky, the cost of knowing better. We meet Lucky, played by Cat Williams, a character that warns Drew and Alyssa on multiple occasions to not take out loans. While Drew and Alyssa ignore Lucky's many comedic protests to them to attempting to get loans, both women are rejected from getting loans due to their poor credit scores. Ironic? Absolutely. But also revealing. Lucky knows the trap because he's already fallen into it. His wisdom is real, just buried under the consequences of his past mistakes. In the end, he's less a fool and more a warning label, proof that knowing better doesn't always mean you're doing better. Key takeaway number four, Bethany, the threat of gentrification. Bethany's move-in symbolizes gentrification, new wealth, and connections moving into neglected neighborhoods, bringing visible change but also highlighting deep inequalities. But the eviction's true catalyst reflects how systematic vulnerabilities, personal betrayals, and economic hardship intertwine, making communities even more fragile. It's a reminder that gentrification often worsens existing challenges within underserved communities. Key takeaway number 5. The art you hide is still art. Alyssa has all this artwork, none of it shared or monetized. That thread hits hard. Believing in yourself is one thing, but being surrounded by people who see value in your work when you don't, that can be life changing. Key takeaway number 6. Second chances matter. From the job callback near the end of the film to the mother figure of the property still showing up at the end, the movie makes a point. Even when people mess up, love shows up anyways. People still give, not because you earned it, but because they care. Mixed into this is the pressures and failures that come with job interviews, especially as minorities. Despite ultimately being dismissed from the interview, she's seen for who she is. It reflects what it's like to be a minority in a space where you feel like you're representing everyone, and what it means when someone actually gives you a real shot. Key takeaway number 7. Ask, don't assume. A quiet message buried in the chaos. Sometimes we project what we think someone is instead of really seeing them as shown through the perception of the character maniac. Whether it's judging a boyfriend too fast or not fast enough, assuming someone isn't serious, or misunderstanding someone's silence, the film reminds us to ask more than we assume. The film nudges us to be careful of reducing people to their mistakes, circumstances, or one version of themselves. Chimamanda said it best: the danger of a single story can reinforce bias and reduce others to detrimental stereotypes and further misunderstandings. Key takeaway number 8. Be ready to take chances. Direction isn't always a plan. They had no idea what they were doing, and in a strange way, that's what saved them. Not knowing gave them room to improvise, take risks, and eventually land on something real. Key takeaway number 9. Bank accounts matter. Seriously, it's funny until it's real. The importance of basic financial literacy, having a bank, a budget, knowledge of your credit score, and avoiding loan sharks is a subtle but crucial thread throughout the film. Key takeaway number 10, and probably the most important, is that finding success through failure. People are layered, complicated, messy in ways that don't always make sense, not even to themselves. What One of Them Days captures so well is how easy it is to define someone by their lowest moment, the mistake they made, the opportunity they missed, the chaos they brought with them. But what if that's not the whole story? This film reminds us that survival isn't always graceful. Growth doesn't come wrapped in neat endings, and sometimes the people who seem lost are just figuring out their way, just like the rest of us. Whether it's believing in your own talent, trusting the people around you, or letting go of the version of life you thought you were supposed to have, the real beauty lies in the mess. Because when you stop looking for perfection and start asking the harder questions, who are you really? What do you need? What does it mean to try again? That's where change lives. Your person, your path, your peace might not look like what you expected, but stay open, ask questions, give grace, and sometimes what feels like the end is just a turning point. Because in the grand scheme of things, One of Them Days really can just be one of them days, not the whole story, not the end, just a chapter. And that, my friends, is more than enough.